Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to You Hate to See It interviews. I'm Adam,
I'm Jeff.
and Nick's a piece of human garbage. So we are replacing him by one of my great professors from Western, where I went to college, Will Buss. Hello,
Hello.
Will.
Hi, Adam. Great to be with you guys. And thanks for inviting me on your podcast. I look forward to getting involved with that. I participate in a podcast on our campus, but we
Mhm.
talk about general issues in journalism and broadcasting and print journalism and things like that. So this is the not new to podcasting per se, but I'm more of a kind of a panelist on that
Yeah.
podcast. But this is a kind of a different one. I've not been part of like this kind of general conversation podcast before, so this will be new and interesting for sure.
Well, like, what are some of those issues you're discussing, if I can ask, on your
Yeah.
current podcast or panel show or what have
Well,
you?
sure. I think we've had some interest, like we record one per week. They're about and they're only about 8 or 10 minutes long. It's myself, another faculty member, and it's a station manager at the NPR station on campus. And we've had a couple interesting conversations. We usually might record two or three at a time, and they air once a week.
Mhm.
But we've had a couple of interesting conversations about AI and how that affects actually the job that we do. There are journalism and reporters unions that are concerned about future contracts and how they don't want AI to basically take over some of the jobs that journalists have traditionally done. And there are some menial tasks that AI can account for that journalists have done. And that's something that idea or that practice I'm not too concerned about. But I certainly don't want to see bots or computers taking over the job that journalists do. It's,
Mhm.
it's a job I've had, and I've been an educator in journalism now for the past 8 years or so in a full-time basis, and I'm certainly don't want to see that. I don't think if have you ever read anything that a bot or something that artificial intelligence has written that's in journalism? I saw one. It ran in the St. Louis paper. It was an editorial that ran about maybe 2 months ago,
Mhm.
and I read it, and it's a very formulaic. You can tell a human didn't write it. It's very formulaic. It's basically the what you learned how to write in middle school, overly simplistic,
Yeah.
right? It has that opening paragraph, sums up the main idea, the three body paragraphs, right? With 3 to 4 to 5 sentences in it, and then a conclusion paragraph, right? And which might be a practice that we teach, but again, it's not that it's overly formulaic. You can't fit everything into that model. And so, and I'm wanting to know more about this, but I think AI is something that's somewhat fascinating. But I wonder how much we can rely on that, just like if we can rely on driverless cars or things with these crashes I'm hearing that are happening in San Francisco. But no, just to start us off, that's one thing we've talked about is AI. I don't know if that's something that you guys ever talk about.
A little bit. We because so I actually work currently in the film industry, and by
Okay.
currently I mean we've had strikes and COVID, so I've currently worked in the film industry, not much, but with the
Yeah.
writer strike and stuff of how
Right.
AI can write movies and things like that. And I mean sometimes they can be pretty good and sometimes they're completely just complete garbage. But like if you give it
Sure.
enough scripts to learn how a
Mhm.
script is written, you can tell it after it learns, you can tell it to do something that will just run through it and do it. And I'm like, it's crazy.
I think, yeah, from what little I know about it, and I'm kind of learning more as we go, I certainly think there's a practical application for it. Yeah, I certainly don't want to see it take the place of the decisions that a journalist would make or an educator would make. I don't want to see AI completely take over and take jobs from human beings. Most of all, not because I'm concerned about those jobs or the people that I work with, but I'm not convinced it can do the job. I think it can do some things, and but I don't know. I'm very suspicious of that, and I think it's something we need to talk about. But I probably understand AI as much as I understand cryptocurrency or whatever the hell that is. I don't know. but it's something I like to get to the bottom of. And as we're, you know, just trying to grasp any technology, but especially that.
Thinking about AI just hurts my head. Thinking about how
Yeah.
artificial, like how it can just learn and probably learn better than a human because it can do it so much faster. It just
Yeah.
fucking it hurts.
Yeah. And I've been on with you guys for 3 minutes. I don't mean to bring in on any headaches, but use a little more, something a little more happier to chat
No,
about.
it's fine. I'm just like trying to think of like AI in
Sure.
my job, but like
Yeah.
I'm also trying to think like what menial tasks in journalism does it do now that it does well? Like, does it do anything right now that like you think is
What I,
actually helpful to the job for a person? Or
the, the menial tasks of doing small bit reporting, incident happened. Here's who was, I mean, it's almost like a template. If you're a reporter, if you have ever reported on a house fire or a car crash, and it follows kind of the same pattern of identifying the names of, or the identity of the people injured, how they were injured, what they were traveling in, what direction they were traveling in, or where was the house fire, or how was it started. I think there's a use that way that maybe AI is used. I don't know these specifically, but I can kind of see it. But doing reporting for the sake of being a watchdog, a bulldog, a watchdog for the public, as journalism should do, and the concern about newsrooms that are being closed because they don't have the revenue, and these organizations, these large conglomerates that own newspapers and media in general, that some are don't even reinvest into their journalists or their newsrooms, and these are hedge fund operators that take away from their operations, and why we're seeing newspapers vanish from the landscape. But, this AI is just another complexity that I'm concerned about, in this industry, and it's particularly this industry because we teach as in my department, and Adam, as you remember, broadcasting at the radio station.
Mm-hmm.
This is blog. This is podcasting, and it's the same kind of skill and discipline. And I'm thrilled to see that you're doing something like this, and that you're working with media. I think that's great, and I want to continue to make sure that we have those kind of jobs and opportunities for my students and my past students like yourself. And so I wonder how that's going to be affected by technology. Technology has certainly affected the industry I came from, which was
Mm-hmm.
newspapers. I don't know, just very concerned, and I'm wondering how we can maintain that and how people can continue to be informed.
I think, I mean, when I actually do get to work in the industry, I think I'm lucky because AI, for my film job, AI can't take away my job. I'm on set making the movies and making the TV shows. So I'm lucky that my job will always be there.
Mm-hmm.
But the things I see, like the things that AI affects me with, are luckily only helpful. They're not,
Okay.
nothing can take away. So one of my other jobs that I have as a freelancer is video editing.
Mm-hmm.
So all the AI stuff is just there to make my life easier, especially
Sure.
when you're like me and you get paid per project, not per hour.
Right.
I'm able to utilize AI to cut out half of my workloads by having
Mm.
it do something for me, and I'm still getting paid, and I have the knowledge of that AI. And the only other thing I use it for is for this podcast, sometimes depending on how many episodes I'm editing in a month, or what I
Mhm.
got going on, or how long an episode is, or if I actually liked the episodes when I was making it, and do I want to listen to it all again to the extreme. I have an AI that transcribes the podcast into a
Okay.
text document,
Mm.
can pick out each person's voice so I can see each speaker, and
Right.
then it can cut out long silences. So anything over 3 seconds gets cut down to 1 second. It cuts out filler words. And it also, I can go through and edit the podcast as if I'm editing a essay. I can delete a topic or a paragraph or something and rearrange things if I need to, just by reading. and can like, if I'm like going through and be like, I know like, oh, like someone said something that I know I want to cut, I can just search for that instance and can delete it right away.
Mhm.
And then I tell it to export, and it exports the episode for me then, like as fully edited, all of the things that I would normally do. The only thing it can't do is sometimes if we're talking over each other or something, and in post I can reorganize to have us not talk over each other and give each person their
Right.
moment to shine, and it can't do that. So I still have to go back through and listen to make sure that stuff is figured out. But I'm like, but
Okay. And
that's helpful.
each of those instances, I full heartedly agree on it. What modern technology should be doing,
Hmm.
and I'm more concerned with taking the place of logic and critical thinking.
Hmm.
A reporter, a journalist, or someone that does a podcast, whatever, or any kind of media
Yeah.
is doing. That's and but yes, those instances, when you are transcribing something, you have this laptop I'm using to talk to you right now can do that.
Hmm.
I have those capabilities as well. But so I'm talking about, there's a concern that, how far will AI go,
Yeah.
and how will you, in an era where we're struggling to believe what journalists are providing and we're doubting it, and then of course there's a schism between the left and the right, and the uber left and right.
Hmm.
We've got that thrown into the mix, further complicating it. So yeah, I'm concerned about how it will be used, because I'm not sure I'm so trusting of current media purveyors or owners who say they may not be very altruistic, shall I say, with their intentions.
Hmm.
That's I think that's where I'm coming from about that argument.
Yeah.
And they're embracing something that I'm still trying to wrap my head around, just like cryptocurrency. So I'm it's very complex. And
Yeah.
the industry that that I taught and that I was in and that you were a student of, it's got lots of challenges in front of it, and this is yet another wrinkle.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how long have you been teaching, and then teaching at Western specifically?
So I've been there, it'll be 8 years in January, and I've been in the started as an adjunct and as the director of our, the advisor of our student newspaper.
Hmm.
And then over time, about 4 or 5 years ago, I became a full-time faculty member. And then I started advising our student radio station about 4 years ago, which where you and I met.
Yep.
And now this semester, I'm advising our student television station
Oh.
and overseeing the weekly newscast on Thursdays. And I've handed the student newspaper, which is now all online as of after the pandemic. That basically changed that.
Hmm.
That was another combination of a lot of factors. For one, you know, advertising had about gone away.
Yep.
We couldn't find a printing press nearby anymore. We were about to be printed in a different state, and that wasn't going to work anymore. And the fact that we couldn't keep paying students to write for us, and we didn't have student fees anymore. That was also going away. So all those things combined, we made the paper online, and unfortunately the student newspaper struggles, but that's a commonality with a lot of student newspapers, college newspapers anymore, unfortunately. But I have shifted more into broadcasting, and I've enjoyed that.
Hmm.
I even contribute stories to the local NPR station on campus, and get to do that and maintain that credential, if you will, and participate on a podcast there talking about journalism issues, and just what I was just spouting off about, where has been a topic we've talked about off and on for the last few weeks. But yeah, enjoying that. I recently finished my EDD and graduated in May and earned my doctorate. So I am trying to advance myself and make progress and advance myself in my career in higher education. But Adam, I'd be curious about yourself too. What have you done since I last saw you? About 4 years ago when you
In
graduated?
December of 19, I graduated. immediately got
Surprisingly.
Yeah, that was, I mean, shocking to me. I credit my ability to graduate to my ability to talk and make friends with all of my teachers and professors.
I say that's pretty accurate. Yes.
Yeah. And then I immediately got connections in the film industry,
Oh.
worked on a movie in February, or I
Oh.
worked an event. I worked for the NBA All-Star Weekend, like early February of 2020. End of
Mhm.
February, got on for a few days for pickup days for reshoots on a movie.
Mhm.
And then a guy who I had worked with at both the event and on this movie loved me, thought I was great, a hard worker, everything was great. So
Yeah.
we sat down with over a couple drinks and he pitched me a 3 picture deal to fly to Connecticut. The studio would put me
Oh,
up and they were going to shoot 3 movies back to back to back over the course of 2 months.
wow.
And that he was going to work on this movie and he wanted me to come with him.
Yeah.
And that was scheduled for May. And 2 weeks after he pitched me, before I could sign a contract, COVID shut the film industry down and canceled everything.
Right. I was kind of waiting for that shoe to drop. I'm waiting for you to say, okay, then, because when
And
COVID happened, and yeah.
yep. And so nothing happened. Had to get a job delivering pizzas, started working for my dad, who owns a construction company. And
Hmm.
then as restrictions started to lift, they'd call me up and be like, "Hey, can you be a day player on this movie or something?" And I'll be like,
Okay.
"Great, when?" And they're like, "Tomorrow." And I was like, "I have a real job now." Because remember how I graduated also because I only worked for Western and got
Hmm.
tuition waivers. I did not qualify for stimulus checks because I did not
Oh,
exist on taxes
yes.
for my time. So I got 0 stimulus checks.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was, so I was like forced into working a real job. And then
Right.
they'd call me, but can you work tomorrow? And I can't. I can work next week. And they're like, eh.
Mm.
So I got a few things here and there. I worked on Batman for 2 weeks. I worked on a few projects, and then finally, this past February, I
Hmm.
had enough stuff lined up finally that I could quit
Yeah.
work. Took me
Hmm.
a couple years to get things going, but I could finally quit
Hmm.
and started working full time between movies and editing and stuff.
Okay.
And then while I was working on a movie, the
Hmm.
writer's strike started. And we were
Right.
like, okay, well, like that's writers, that's pre-production. I work in production. Then
Yes.
2 weeks after the movie ended, the SAG went on strike. And I
Yes.
was like, okay, but I have enough other smaller things that can keep me occupied for a few months. Like I'll be fine.
Sure.
Then I ran out of those smaller things to do in August. Found out my wife was pregnant. Found out
Oh.
that we lost my smaller things. We lost contracts because I ended up working too fast and they couldn't
Oh.
keep up with me. So
Yeah.
they like put a pause on their contract. And I was like, great, great. I just found out my wife's pregnant. And now I went from full time income to zero income.
Oh,
And
no.
then the strike kept going.
Right.
And didn't end, and the strikes finally ended, and we're hopefully in the next couple months here, like things can pick up again. But right now it's tight.
Yeah. Good.
Things are tight right now, so
Okay. Well, good luck. My goodness. But you're hanging in there though, and that's
yeah.
you've got to be rugged about that. And you have,
I'm doing projects at home. As you can see, last
yeah.
time Jeff saw my video,
Hmm.
my this downstairs was clean, and
Yeah.
now it's a disaster because
Yeah.
our room right next to me was my wife's office. And by wife's office, I mean it was the room that she threw all of her totes and stuff in when we moved in and has never unpacked. And then we had our guest room upstairs, but now that we're expecting, the guest room upstairs is turning into the nursery and my wife's
Yeah.
office is turning into the guest room. So we had to puke the room so that
Yeah.
we could put a bed in there and start cleaning. And now I literally just finished cleaning down here 2 weeks ago, and now I have anxiety to turn around. So
No, you should. It's
yeah,
not
it's
looking great
pretty
back there.
awful.
Just a few things going on, huh?
Yeah. Jeff also went to Western, but
Really?
I'll give you two guesses as to what Jeff's major was at Western Illinois.
It's just two guesses, huh?
Just two guesses. And you don't
Um,
recognize him, so that narrows it
not the,
down quite a bit.
not at the moment though, but it wasn't in our department, I guess,
No,
huh? Okay.
it was not. It was not even in our building. I don't think he stepped foot in our building once.
I don't even know what your
Okay.
building is.
Okay.
Salem.
Oh
Well,
God, I
It's the one
wasn't there
with no
once.
windows.
Yeah,
the windowless wonder, Silly Hall. So you weren't. I'm just taking a stab because it's one of our bigger majors. You weren't in our Law Enforcement and Justice Administration (LEJA), were you?
I was.
Oh, just a stab. I mean, okay,
That's why he gave you two guesses.
It was
okay,
either that or farming. So
right, ag, right, okay. Well, good. And are you an officer of the law or anything of that?
No, COVID also, because I graduated in May of 2019, so just a semester before Adam did. COVID also made life impossible.
I can imagine.
I went into security right away just to, have something. Did that for a while, and then I became a private investigator for a couple years.
I see.
And then when COVID lockdowns got to so bad, I went from working like 50 to 60 hours a week to working maybe like 16
Right.
because just people can't leave their house, so you can't do anything.
Right. Yeah.
And I eventually just ended up like I didn't switch, but like I picked up like DoorDash and like Uber and stuff like that just to like, supplemental income because it's also your hours. So if I end up getting a case, I can just get up and leave. Ended up just, I don't know, making good enough money doing that. And I was like, well, I mean, what's even the point of this job? So left that and then went back into security for a while. And then
Yeah.
from security, I found the company I work for also owns a fiber optic company. And I ended up joining that. And now I don't use my degree at all. So,
Oh,
but I love what I do and it looks
good.
more promising. So,
Okay.
my other co-host was also in law enforcement at Western. So it's really strange that, we all have a podcast now. It really melds the things that we all collectively like.
Cool.
But he was like he interned for the state police, the state troopers for a while, but
Yeah. Mhm.
then people started like just hitting state troopers on the side of the highway, and then there was no bad blood against police officers during COVID in the United States, so
Not at
he
all.
chose not
Yeah.
to.
Sure. I can understand.
it's
Wow.
really, it's weird. I don't know if I speak for him, but for me, like, I wanted to like be in law enforcement for like a good chunk of my life. It's like what I knew what like I wanted to do. And then you get out there and literally it was like right during my senior year and like right after I graduated when like the whole world changed and it just like everything blew up and
Yeah.
like hatred for police and stuff. And you when you're going into it, you have to sit down and take a long hard look at what you value and what
Right.
you think you are capable of doing. And I just couldn't put myself into doing it. And I was like, I don't believe for anyone that you shouldn't be doing something that your heart's not fully in, but for being a police officer, I think that's one, like, probably one of the number one things is like, that's not a job you can just go into like hating yourself every day because that's just going to end up horribly.
Has that been an issue with what's been happening with police and this image and this, with the profile that we have of police, I'm talking like, after George Floyd and these things that have happened, I can only imagine how dramatically this has affected that line of work and law enforcement in general, and maybe people that are drawn to that. I can only imagine what that's like anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like, they have staffing shortages pretty much just across the country for like almost every department. Like, it's just hard to get people to come into it anymore, which is like understandable because like all you hear about on the like news is like people who hate the police. Or I'm not saying they don't have a right to, like, I'm not saying I mean, there are bad cops, like, and there's bad everyone and everything, but like
Certainly are.
when cops are just getting killed to like be killed is when you
Right.
got to question if you want to be in a field anymore. So I don't know. It's not looking great, and I don't see it looking any better anytime soon, sadly. But who
Right.
knows? Maybe things will change. But
I hear they like police in Canada.
yeah, but you know how hard it is to become a royal mountie?
Yeah.
Right.
It is like damn near impossible. And also when you become one, you could end up like in charge of like an entire like section of just woods and be the only person that works it because there's like 4 people that live in like a 100 square mile radius.
Got to live in Canada.
Yeah, also true. Yeah. Being a citizen of Canada does help.
Might be a nice vacation, but I don't know about a permanent vacation. But those funny hats and red coats, I don't know. But I'm picturing Dudley Do Right and
Yeah.
that thing. But yeah, so sometimes we're living in interesting,
Yeah.
and but it's interesting because when I heard from you, Adam, and you invited me here, I knew you pre-pandemic, and that's where our paths parted. I remember, I think I last saw you on graduation, and
Probably.
I think I still have a picture on my social media feed about you and the other graduates that day, and I was, doing the handing out certificates and shaking hands and being part of the faculty that day, and I was thinking after you and the invite, like I think that's the last time I saw Adam, and so I wonder how the pandemic affected, his life and
Yeah.
how a lot of graduates were affected. I mean, I'm here in my house now in one of my rooms, and I taught quite a bit from one of these rooms on this very laptop because
Yeah.
we were distance learning and we were Zooming and got thrown into that technology. But for me, luckily, I guess you guys weren't as lucky, but it kept us afloat and kept us going. We still had classes. Classes went on as usual. Students were in touch with me, but we had about the year and a half where we were distance learning, and then we went back to campus, and then we went back off campus again, and it was just a crazy time. And it's been normal for about the past year, but I don't know. It's kind of lingered in some way too. There's still somewhat of this post-pandemic hangover. I don't know if the students that came into college during the pandemic are suddenly have somewhat of a wake-up call because things are becoming a little more, a little more rugged, or there's more expectations that they didn't have when the pandemic was part of our lives when they were freshmen or sophomores. So
Yeah.
I can only imagine how brutal that is for like because when you think about college for us, like it's when you go out and like you have to really like learn to kind of be on your own and like meet friends and stuff. And then all of a sudden these people they go into college and right away they're not interacting with other people face to face for a year and a half, and then they have to like they're juniors and they're learning their college experience of like, okay, well now you have like 2 years left and these are arguably the hardest, and now you also have to meet people like
Also, we were like, oh, like that person's so lazy. They literally woke up 10 minutes ago, walked to class in their pajamas. Now these people are just
yeah,
sitting up in bed.
yeah.
yes,
You
yes,
can tell that guy's hungover. I can smell it on him, and you can just look like that person's probably still drinking right now.
Yeah.
Like
That was, I mean, so I know the department, like, I feel like right when I got into Western was part of the department's like heyday. And like by my senior year, we were starting to struggle. Like, so like, has the department picked up? Has it kind of evened out, or has it gotten worse? Or
I know
where's
I know the university still struggles with enrollment, but
Mhm.
I think our department holds its own. I still have students that participate in student radio and television, and I think that's been fairly strong. We could always
Mhm.
use more, of course, but I think we're trying to, yeah, I think we hit a bottom when we were especially struggling to have classes in person.
Mhm.
And I think there's some students that struggle to come back to campus. We've had some folks that maybe a couple of folks and one faculty member that had COVID this semester. So that's still a concern. But I think we hold our own, and I think we have to focus on being a university of the amount of people that we have now, and not constantly focus on having to. I think growing enrollment's one thing, but I think just being satisfied with what you are now and focusing on that is the best thing, really. If that answers your question.
Yeah. Well, like you were saying like all the things that you do. And I was like, not only do you still have what your job was, you also have Roger's job and Jasmine's job. And I'm like,
Yeah.
geez, like how much is
Yeah.
going on there?
I mean, there's still a demand for students that want to participate in broadcast student media, and we'll provide that. And I will, take on whatever I'm asked to do. And it's good to be needed and wanted in that way. And I think I have something to pass along. I certainly hope you learned a thing or two during our brief time together, as when you were our station manager, and
Mhm.
I learned from you too as well, and your classmates. So it's a collaborative thing, and as I always said, and I think I always told you, an advisor advises. You guys ran the student media, and
Mhm.
I just made sure you guys were on the right path. But certainly, hopefully, I taught you some things along the way. I don't think I've ever had you in class, but
Yeah, I don't think so. I think all of the classes that you would have taught, I like took with Roger or someone else, because like that was who I was dealing with every day anyway, like
right,
anything. And I focused more on radio and news versus journalism side of things.
yeah.
So
We kind of met during the tail end of, I think, when you right at your senior year. So you
yeah,
you were wrapping up, and I was just, and I had inherited the radio advisor position, which I still enjoy to this day. Hopefully, I'm getting better at it. I don't think I've put off any students yet, so we'll see. But I enjoy it. And I just like enjoy being on podcasts like this and the one I'm involved with at the university. So no, this is
I I went to like look you up and like to see what's changed, and
yeah.
went on the Western website, and I looked up WIUS and it says advisor Roger Sadler, and I was like,
Oh yeah,
that was a long time. Like, so someone's gotta get on the Western website to
yeah.
update their crap, because it just says that you deal with the courier, and like it
Yeah.
still shows Roger, and I'm like, that was so long ago.
My credentials are outdated. The photos from 8 years ago.
I was gonna
That
say, like the photo has you with a goatee, which I think you only had for like a year when I
yeah.
like while I was there,
Oh
and
yeah.
then
No,
it
I've
went away.
I've changed entirely. So yes, so much needs to be updated with that. What we're hopefully we'll fix that and
Yeah,
take. But yes, so much needs to be done yet. But we're holding our own, though, I
yeah.
think, with our department. So when students like you that leave, we have someone that always seems to step up, and they're still interested in it. So that's good.
You
How's
hear that? You let them down.
I did. I saw we got a new website. Like about once every couple months, I would go to 883thedog.com just to see, and I was like, the website changed. New website,
Yeah.
new this, new that. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
like I was like, that was like when the website changed, I was like, I had to sit down from it, because I was like, I built that website from the
I know.
ground up and
Yeah, I
changed
know.
us over from who no one like, because no one paid attention to the old one. And I was like, Emily and I did like an overhaul on that whole station. To like, Roger helped us for his last semester, and then Patrick came in,
Right.
and Patrick was kind of like, Emily, Adam, do whatever the fuck you want. Like,
Right.
change everything. Like, this is yours now. Like, no one's here to tell you what to do or how to run things or anything. Like, I'm not Roger. Like, Roger had a way that he wanted things done, which was fine. I'm
Yeah.
new. You know more than I do.
Yes.
How would you run the station if you ran it 100%? And so Emily and I did everything. We changed
Right.
everything around, and everything was new. And then like Rod or Patrick leaves, and then you come in, and we're like, all right,
Yeah.
now we have to show Will how we do
Yeah.
things now,
Right.
because we've
Yep.
completely redone everything, and Patrick barely knew what we were doing at one point, because
Right.
we were just like doing our own thing.
Yep. Yep. That kind of continues. I ask the students to take the direction and let me know about it, and I want to make sure that they're keeping that. But yeah, things change, and the ability to afford things changes too. We have to keep within kind of tight budget, and so
Are we still using that old ass board?
oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
same board I used 25
Yeah,
years ago.
I was gonna say, like, I knew you used that board that
Yeah.
to broadcast outside of the studio. You have to call in and plug the phone into the board.
Yes.
And
Yes.
oh, great
Still there.
times.
Still there. The NPR station has a new board, so maybe hopefully we're next. We'll see.
Well, probably not, but
Who we kidding? Yeah.
Yeah. Any other new changes, new things since I've been gone?
I mean, otherwise, it's just been, I think it's been about 4 years. And
It's like Emily was running things for like after Jasmine left, because Jasmine and Patrick left at the same time. So
and then Emily's successor is my wife, who we met and we married, and we just had a baby a little over a year ago. And then she left and I took over that. So I'm still there. And
so you get home from work and be like, you want to know why my day was so long? It's your fault. It's
yeah, it's an ongoing joke at our house.
Yeah.
So it's all your fault. Yes.
Yeah. Jeff, do you got anything for Will before I start wrapping things up, I guess?
No, I got nothing. I appreciate you coming on and
Yeah, this has been
talking
fun
with us.
Thanks, guys. This is great. I hope I didn't bring it down too badly, but
No.
Nick wasn't here, so I mean,
Yeah,
that
when
would have been the
Nick's not
downfall.
here, it's a
hopefully I
pretty
filled
good
that
episode.
void. Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, well, maybe once I have a kid and we start recording for 2025,
Yeah.
we'll see about getting people. We're actually talking to Roger on Thursday.
Really?
So
cool. I'll have to tune in for that whenever it airs.
Yeah, that will be
In like a year.
Yeah, that's August.
Cool. Okay.
I'm already talking about maybe pushing you up a little bit and switching some things around. So, but we'll see. It depends
Keep me
on
posted. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll send you the links when it goes up.
Awesome. Thanks.
But yeah, I very much appreciate you coming on. I don't know if you do any social media things, but do you want to plug anything that the 27 people in India who listen to the show might be interested in looking at?
I don't have anything social media wise to plug other than just I think I did plenty of plugging for our university and for our program, and so that's what I want to just preserve and just keep fighting and preserving the effort and the focus of journalism and its role. And I'm glad to see that you're using those skills that we taught you.
I'm one of the few. We just talked to John Benedict the other day.
And
that piece of garbage had the luckiest time with COVID because he went from, with the shutdown and everything, was able to get on as the Cubs organist. I know. And I'm over here struggling for work, and he's like, "Yeah, I work for the Cubs now. Not even in my degree. I'm just a piece of garbage."
Jealous as all get out. Yeah. Good for him. No, I see him online. I think that's great.
With his millions of TikTok followers, and you ask him about, he's like, I don't really care about TikTok. And I'm like, yeah, and I slave over it.
Yeah, right.
Should ask him to take over his TikTok account for him and edit his TikToks and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, that TikToks that he doesn't edit and still gets millions of views on. Yeah, I'm sure that will work out great for me. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, Will. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. To keep in touch. Let me know when this airs. I'd love to follow you guys. That'd be great.
Awesome. And thanks for listening, everyone. It's been a pleasure, Will, and it's been a pleasure to have everyone.
Disgusting, but okay.
Everyone listening into the podcast, go to youhatetoseeit.net for all of our social media and all of our links. And from there, you can join our Patreon. On our Patreon, you can watch unedited video versions of the podcast, and you can have a bunch of other content, our Taskmaster specials, and other things happening here and there. We'll see how things go, if we ever catch up on some stuff that we've promised, but we'll get there eventually. You can also go to w.gg and use promo code YOUH82CIT for 10% off your order. W.gg is the place to get all of your healthy energy needs. Woo! Jeff, say something really stupid that Nick would say.
I don't want to stoop to his level. We're finally getting better.
Okay.